She banged on my door so hard the whole frame shook. "Open up or we're breaking this down," a man's voice yelled from outside. I peered through the peephole, and my blood ran cold. 3 men in fake uniforms stood there, clutching what looked like some official document. Behind them, Karen stood with her arms folded, grinning like she'd already won. "This property is an HOA violation. We're authorized to enter and take what we need," one of the imposters barked. Karen chimed in, "If you don't comply, you'll be arrested tonight." For a moment, I remained silent, just listening. My hands balled into fists, but I forced myself to stay calm. Because what they didn't realize was that my wife had been 2 steps ahead of them all along. She'd been suspicious for weeks. Unfamiliar cars driving through our neighborhood, bogus letters shoved into our mailbox, Karen appearing with new regulations nobody else on the street had ever heard of. My wife had been quietly gathering everything, photographs, audio recordings, even the license plates on their so-called patrol vehicles. What Karen believed was her moment of triumph was actually her downfall. I cracked the door open slightly. "You're making a huge mistake," I said quietly. One of the men pushed forward, trying to jam his foot inside. Karen sneered. "Don't listen to him. He's just some squatter pretending he owns this house." That was when my wife emerged from the back room, carrying a thick folder of documents and holding a recorder in her hand. She didn't look frightened at all. She looked prepared. "You really shouldn't have shown up here tonight," she said, her voice cutting but controlled. "Because everything you're doing is already being documented." The grins vanished from Karen's face, but it was too late. The tables had just turned, and she had no idea how badly. Karen's eyes shot toward the folder in my wife's hands. For the first time, she looked worried. The fake officers shifted nervously, like they weren't so confident about their scheme anymore. But Karen snapped, "Don't just stand there. Get inside. He's trespassing on HOA property." One of the men pushed the door harder, trying to force his way in. That's when my wife pressed a button on the recorder. The sound of their threats played back at them, every word recorded. "Open up or we're breaking this down. We're authorized to take what we need." Their own voices echoed in the air. I leaned against the doorframe, relaxed. "Interesting thing," I said slowly, because the sheriff's department already verified. "No one from law enforcement was dispatched here tonight." Karen tensed up. "He's lying," she snapped, but her voice wavered just enough to give her away. My wife didn't flinch. "Actually," she continued, pulling out a photograph she'd printed earlier, "this is your vehicle, Karen. Same license plate. Parked behind the HOA office last night when you met with them." She placed the picture on the table, where everyone could see it. The men exchanged nervous glances. One mumbled under his breath, "You didn't mention they had evidence." Karen shot him a deadly look, but her control was cracking. That's when a deep rumbling came from the street. Headlights swept across the yard. A county sheriff's cruiser pulled up right at the curb. Karen's face went white. My wife whispered just loud enough for Karen to hear, "We didn't call them tonight. They've been monitoring you." And in that moment, everything changed. The sheriff climbed out of the cruiser, his boots grinding on the gravel. He didn't rush, didn't even touch his radio. He just surveyed the scene, Karen standing there, arms trembling now instead of crossed, 3 men in mismatched uniforms, and me and my wife blocking the entrance with complete composure. "Evening," the sheriff said slowly, eyes focusing on the fake badges. "Mind explaining which department issued those uniforms?" The men froze. One stuttered, We're here on HOA business." "HOA." The sheriff interrupted him, almost chuckling. "Last I checked, homeowner associations don't get to deputize thugs." His hand moved casually toward his holster, not drawing, just reminding everyone what real authority looked like. Karen tried to find her voice. "Sheriff, they're with me. This man is trespassing. He forged papers to claim this house. I have every right." My wife stepped forward and handed over the folder. "Actually, here's the deed, and here's the video from 3 weeks of surveillance. Everything Karen just claimed is false." The sheriff flipped through the documents, nodding slowly. He glanced at Karen. "Funny thing, ma'am. You reported this man as a squatter last month, right?" Karen raised her chin, desperate. "Yes, because he is." The sheriff turned another page, then looked at me. "Sir, you purchased this property 20 years ago. Military loan, correct?" I nodded once. "Yes, sir." The sheriff's expression hardened as he looked back at Karen. "Then we've got ourselves a situation because filing a false police report is a felony and impersonating an officer." He let the words hang heavy in the night air. The fake cops stepped back, fear flickering in their eyes. One actually whispered, "We're finished. I told you this was a terrible idea." Karen's mouth opened to protest, but before she could, red and blue lights flashed from down the road. More cruisers, real ones. Her entire scheme was falling apart right there on the street. The second cruiser stopped directly behind the sheriff's. Two deputies stepped out, hands on their belts, eyes scanning the scene with keen suspicion. The fake cops tried to stand taller, but next to actual lawmen, their cheap badges and flimsy uniforms looked like costume store props. Karen panicked. She raised her voice, waving her hands frantically. "Arrest them. They're dangerous. They threaten me. I'm the HOA president. I have authority here." The deputies didn't budge. One just looked at her and said flatly, "Ma'am, HOA presidents don't call in tactical operations." The sheriff gestured toward the fake cops. "Gentlemen, unless you want to spend the night in county lockup, I suggest you explain who gave you those badges and why you're impersonating officers." One of the men broke immediately. He threw his hands up. "It wasn't my plan. She paid us. She said it would be simple, that he wasn't even supposed to be here." He pointed directly at Karen. Her face went ashen. "Liar!" she shrieked, but her voice was high-pitched now, frantic. My wife stepped closer, holding up her phone. "I've got the transaction on record. The money came directly from Karen's account." She turned the screen toward the deputies. She transferred the payment to them last week. The deputies exchanged a quick look, and that was it. One of them pulled out handcuffs. Karen stumbled backward, shaking her head. No, you can't do this to me. I am the HOA. This entire neighborhood answers to me." The sheriff's voice was calm but ice cold. "Not anymore. You just escalated from nuisance to felon." And as the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, neighbors began to appear at their windows, porch lights switching on one by one. The woman who had marched through the streets, controlling everyone around, was being led away in front of the whole block. But I knew it wasn't finished yet. Karen wasn't the kind to go down without one final scheme. This is part 1. Subscribe to the channel. Watch part 2. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more incredible The HOA story time.